What's good, everybody? It's Batman, and we're going to be doing a topic, as you guys can see in the video, the title, is Chidori a speed amp? So this has been probably discussed for a very, very long time, and you have all kinds of people that basically discuss this topic. You have people that think it is a massive speed amp, you have people that think it's a small speed amp, you have people that even think it's no amp at all whatsoever. So that's what we're going to be basically finding out in today's video. And the first time we're actually introduced to Chidori is during one of the most goated written stories and arcs in Naruto, which was Kakashi Chronicles, The Boy's Life in the Battlefield. You guys already know one of my favorite characters, aka Kakashi. And so that's when we're actually first introduced to the technique. So basically the way it goes is Kakashi does his new technique, and he basically starts to use it. He's going against like this one Jonin, Minato supporting him in the back lines, and basically the other guy says, oh yeah, he's really, really fast. And Kakashi goes to have an exchange, and basically the other Jonin would have killed Kakashi, but Minato, the GOAT, saves the day, comes in through like the Flash, saves his life, and then we already know what happens after that. And so after that little interaction, Minato basically has an analysis of, and has a whole conversation with Kakashi, and basically tells him one more thing about his new jutsu, that he shouldn't use it anymore. And so he says, from what I saw, it's a strike with a single focus, and it certainly has speed and destructive power, but it makes you move too fast to assert your opponent's counterattack. It's still imperfect, so on and so forth. So basically, overall, what we're seeing so far, just from this one statement alone, you could be like, okay, all right, it's a strike, right, with a single focus, and it has speed and destructive power, right? Okay, interesting. And then Minato says it makes you move too fast, so on and so forth, yada yada. So overall, with this scan alone, you could basically come to the rational conclusion that, okay, Chidori has to be a speed amp, right? I don't see why it wouldn't be. Okay, so as we further analyze it, analyze the character Kakashi, he eventually has a fight with another two actually Earth Jonin from the Stone Village, and they're basically equal. As you can tell, they have a clash within the scan, and they're fighting multiple times. It even shows it more in the anime. And eventually it gets to the point where they have an interaction again in the cave, and basically Obito, is there, and then literally it's stated, Kakashi says, we fought earlier, he's quick, you gotta be careful, and says that to Obito. And so they have like a whole fight with the guy. He's doing a 2v1, and basically Obito's fast enough as well, and they're fighting him. Obito's able to use a two-tomo precognition, and he's able to create an opening for Kakashi, because Kakashi was coming at him while he was charging at him at the same time. And Obito sees the movement, he basically uses his legs to block his arms, and then Kakashi's able to get a slice in the head, okay? And that's the interaction we see. Now this is very important, because clearly when it comes to taijutsu encounters, he's using his maximum amount of speed, and he's equal to these opponents, right, whatever, and because of Obito's precog, he was actually able to land a successful blow. And that's without Chidori, remind you. Then we have the next interaction where Kakashi gets the two-tomo shotgun from Obito after his, supposed alleged death, and he goes to strike at the ninja, and basically the ninja is able to deal with attack. He cuts his sword. It's a very, very tragic moment as well, because it was even like the white fang sword that his dad gave him. So it's a little sad, but we have that happen, and then Kakashi does his Chidori. They both charge at each other again. They're still at equal speeds. And then Kakashi is victorious because of the precog, and he's able to land the blow. So, and then the next following scan when there's a whole bunch of stone ninja, he says, Obito, you helped me perfect my jutsu. And then he uses the Chidori, and then we know what happens after Minato saves the day. So overall, from seeing this interaction with Kakashi, we're already basically seeing that, even though like the first statement we see about the technique, with the words, and if you're arguing semantics, whatever, that it has to be an amp, right? But then when we analyze the feats, it's showing the opposite, the contrary, where the feats are just showing that it's actually not an amp. It's either not an amp or it's a very small amp, because when we analyze the feats so far overall, basically his speed doesn't change. And if anything, the only reason why he can use the technique, which is also stated verbatim by Minato and Kakashi, okay, is because he has the shotgun and can use the precognition. So that's kind of where now there's a very conflicting issue, where you have a contradiction that's in place, where the feats show otherwise, along with other statements supporting what the feats are showing of that particular notion. And then you have the previous statement that Minato gives when he's analyzing the technique. So But as of now, since it's kind of conflicting, let's get further into it and even analyze further consistency and further evidence and feats and so on and so forth to really see what is actually the case here. The next time we actually see Kakashi using the technique is against Orochimaru, and this is when Orochimaru is fatigued and actually severely injured after his fight with Hiruzen with the Anbu, and he's able to dodge the technique effortlessly, and he's able to easily parry the attack, and basically could have killed Kakashi, but he decided not to, and he spared him. You know, you have that, and you can even see, you know, while like his mask is cut and so on and so forth, whatever. And then the next time we see the interaction is where Kakashi, we already know the fight he had with Zaba, equal to each other. They had a full-on, very good fight. Kakashi was slightly over, but overall it was a pretty competitive fight. And Kakashi had to resort to using the dogs in order to hold Zabuza down. And basically, when it came to it, that's why he was able to almost land a successful Chidori, but then Haku comes in the end and saves him and uses her body as a shield. So this is also a very important feat to take into consideration, because there's going to be even consistency with this, because another element to this and another part of consistency to kind of unfortunately support the notion that Chidori is not an amp at all, or a very small amp, is unfortunately when it comes to Kakashi or Sasuke having to fight opponents, there's a common pattern and consistency of them having to use jutsus as a distraction, or to use jutsus to stop the opponent's mobility or from escaping in order to land a guaranteed Raikiri or Chidori attack, which is very counterintuitive to the whole argument of Chidori being a massive speed amp, or even allegedly what people like to argue, 5th gate level amp, okay, to like over 5th gate Lee, because it just doesn't really make sense logically. If it makes you that much faster, you wouldn't even need the Sharingan, or most importantly, you wouldn't need to use jutsus to create an opening, or use like a mud wall eventually to corner your opponent. But as I said before, I'll show those. So the next interaction we see is eventually Sasuke in the tuning exams fighting against Gaara, and guys, like, that's practically the same speed as Lee without his weights. If we analyze that's practically the same speed, that's basically what he's saying is that Sasuke is relative to weightless Lee, so he's not equal to him, but he's at least relative. He's almost there. So that's just something to take into consideration. And basically, we already know what happens. He beats like the dog crap out of Gaara with his speed, and then he goes to land another final blow on Gaara, and Sasuke gets hit by all the sand spikes and whatnot. He's bleeding on his hand, he's bleeding on his face, his legs, his arms, you name it. And basically, he got hit because he didn't have precog. And so then there's further dialogue with the guy, and even Lee says you can't defeat that Sand Shinobi with Taijutsu alone. Okay, and Guy even has a sweat on his face. He's like, I know he watched the match between Lee and Gaara. He has to know that Taijutsu alone won't work against Gaara, whom even Lee couldn't defeat, who has ridiculous levels of Taijutsu. Okay, and then Sasuke does the Chidori, and Guy's like, I see, so that's why you had him focus on Taijutsu and increased his speed so much. So this is actually really important verbatim statements, because this already is hinting towards the notion, in fact, that there actually is a two-step process for Chidori. One, you need to be able to utilize the lightning element nature, and two, you also need to have a certain level of speed in order to use the technique as well, because if you're very slow, then it's completely redundant and your opponents could easily dodge, or they could easily counter the attack. So there's that as well, which the reason why this all works is because if Sasuke is faster than Gaara, or faster than his Saiyan, and he also has a freaking insane AP destructive sword in his hand, he's going to shit on Gaara, basically. Okay, and that's basically what Guy is acknowledging. And basically, as it further goes into it, Guy explains what the technique is. It's for assassination. The secret is in the speed of the thrust and the immense chakra produced by activating one's flesh, and by narrowly focusing massive amounts of chakra from the hand. A pulsating fluxation forms in the thrust, makes chirp sounds like a bird, unique attack sound that resembles the crying of 1,000 birds. Accordingly, that move is called Chidori, or you could even call it Raikiri in the data books, which is a higher form of Chidori. So, literally just says further in the statement, as you guys can see, there's even further consistency, where Guy says it's not only requires a certain speed of the thrust, but it also requires a lot of chakra and so on and so forth, and math, and etc. So, once again, you need to have 3 requirements technically. You need to have a certain amount of speed, you need to have a large amount of chakra, and, okay, you need to be able to use lightning style. So, as we further get into it, then Lee, like, realizes what's going on. He's like, I understand if that had been me, I wouldn't have launched a head-on full speed attack my opponent like that, or rather, I couldn't have. A beeline attack is too easy to counter or avoid, and I don't have the eyes to perceive through that counter. Once again, even further consistency stating verbatim that you need the Sharingan in order to be able to use the technique. Because even if Lee, if he had the Chidori and he just charged straight at Gaara, what's it called? He basically would just get killed because he can't see the attack. Now, to be fair, if it was Lee with the Chidori as well, okay, and if Lee is massively faster, then it doesn't matter. It's redundant. Because if you're massively faster than someone, you're not going to need precog. We see that with Naruto, and we see that with every other character. We even see that with Itachi, Kakashi, and Orochimaru that are able to effortlessly deal with someone using the Raikiri or Chidori. So there's that into consideration as well. We see base Sasuke fighting against one-arm transformed Shikaku Gaara. He uses, he's able to dodge it while in base with the Sharingan. He then uses the Chidori and charges. They both, he lands the blow, but Gaara doesn't. Gaara gets pissed off. Then he goes and releases his one-tail state that we see with Naruto in the Final Valley end. Even Sasuke says he's faster than even before. And then as things go further on, what's it called? Sasuke even himself concedes that he can't dodge it without taking time to predict his moves using the precognition and anticipating his attacks. He says, without the Sharingan, I would already be dead. Once more, further conceding and supporting the notion that it's not the Chidori that amps Sasuke so much, it is the Sharingan and the precog that allows him to use the Chidori, which is why it's effective, and even why he's even surviving this encounter to begin with. You know, so once again, that's, you know, it's a misconception that a lot of people try to make, that Sasuke with Chidori is like ridiculously more faster, or now like way over 5th Gate Lee and all this stuff and yada yada yada, when it's not the case at all. It's because he has the Sharingan that he's able to survive, and he's already relative to weightless Lee. Like Naruto able to kick Gaara and be fast enough to save him, that's still at least showing relativity of Naruto being within that certain speed range to even kick Gaara in the face. And mind you, he's doing this without a Chidori, which would further support that notion. We even see Sakura's fodder ass able to get in front of Gaara as well and have enough speed in order to try to defend Sasuke too. So once again, further consistency, and both of these characters do not have a Chidori amp. Then we see Sasuke use Chidori again on Itachi, and we see an example of what happens when the other opponent is massively faster and scales over. The technique is dealt with, and, you know, he gets crapped on and pooped on by his brother. We then have even eventually see Naruto, and this actually does have relevance, so I will explain that as well. But we see Naruto where he's basically using the Rasengan the first time against Tsunade. It was an incomplete form, to be fair, and Tsunade, because she scales over massively and he doesn't have precog, she's able to easily counter the jutsu, because once again, a beeline attack is very easy to avoid or counter. We even see further consistency when Kabuto, who also scales over Naruto, he's even able to dodge and deal with it and easily counter a beeline attack from the Rasengan, which is very similar to the Chidori. And he says, you'll never be able to hit me with big moves like this. Even Naruto says, it failed, it's not easy to hit moving targets. Once again, showing a line of consistency that the Rasengan and Chidori itself, you know, is very, very hard to hit people. And the only reason why Sasuke can do it is because he has the Sharingan. We eventually see Naruto use the Rasengan and Sasuke use the Chidori as well. This is important because it further shows more consistency that Sasuke, who is equal to this Naruto on the rooftop, eventually does the Chidori. And think of it this way, if it's such a massive amp, he should have been able to just easily speed blitz Naruto along with precognition while Naruto doesn't have precog, and just land a Chidori right on Naruto. But once again, he's not able to do that because it's not a massive speed amp. It's either no amp at all or it's a small amp. And furthermore, this is more impressive for Naruto because he doesn't have a Sharingan. Sasuke does. So the fact that Naruto is still able to force him to slam their techniques together at the same time initially, before Kakashi came and stopped it, that is very impressive, and we eventually even see that in the Final Valley at the end. We even see further consistency when Naruto using the Rasengan against Saikon, and he's able to deal with the attack again. Furthermore, showing that beeline attacks are very easy to dodge and deal with or counter. Then we see in the Final Valley at the end where Sasuke and Naruto are fighting. Sasuke lands hits, Naruto lands hits back on him as well. They're both making each other bleed. Sasuke does a full power Chidori. Naruto does a Rasengan, does a Shadow Clone to spin him in a circle. They both move and run at each other. And once again, Naruto is able to force him to do a clash. Remind you, more impressive for Naruto, and if anything, you could say Naruto is actually slightly faster than Sasuke, because Sasuke has precog, and he's a very smart tactical ninja. If anything, he wouldn't really want to force an encounter like this, or even risk testing who can actually win. If anything, he would just want to basically try to use his precog, do what Kakashi normally does, along with what Sasuke normally does, dodge the attack, and then hit Naruto in the body and kill him. And even Sasuke says, at full power, with a full power Chidori and his jutsu, it was countered. Then Sasuke concedes, and he says, I can't risk wasting another one, especially if it draws out the stalemate. My best bet is to create an opening with quick moves and a jutsu in rapid succession, then move in with the Chidori that hits him square full on. Furthermore, going back way to the other claim and notion that I made at the beginning of the video, of where you'll eventually even see a consistency of Sasuke or Kakashi having to use jutsus or create openings, okay, or even use like mud walls or just do something to stop the movement of their opponent, which would furthermore support the notion that Chidori is a small amp or not an amp at all in speed. So what does Sasuke do? He then activates CM1. He then shoots fire style jutsus to create a diversion, kind of like what Naruto does to Kakuzu with his shadow clones. He's then able to close the gap and get behind Naruto, lands a couple blows. Naruto dodges some attacks, but then he gets hit. Then Sasuke grabs him. He goes to land the Chidori on him. Naruto activates QB Chakra, and Naruto's still able to counter last minute. Remind you, doesn't have precog, but just using a QB amp. Dodges the attack last minute, and basically Sasuke says, so I missed your heart, nice move with your hand there. Still didn't help much, did it? You're still out of a shoulder and a lung. So once again, it's not a massive amp, because not only does Sasuke have CM1 and a Chidori, he still couldn't land the hit on the heart before Naruto could react and counter. Furthermore, which there is relevance to this, we see them fight. Sasuke is still able to react to QB Naruto, okay? Then basically Naruto eventually overpowers him and beats him, and then Sasuke unlocks 3 Tomo, severing his bond to be fully committed to beating Naruto. And guess what? Not because of Chidori, but because of precognition again, but even stronger visual chakra sight, he's able to read Naruto's movements even more better, and now he's able to dominate Naruto in taijutsu. And he even says this, with chakra sight like this, all I need to do is read his next move and set up my strike before it happens, and he's able to beat Naruto. Not because of a Chidori amp, but because, once again, his broken-ass Sharingan. See in the end, where basically they both go to do their legendary Rasengan and Chidori clash again while in CM2 in one-tail state. And I forgot to mention, but, 3 Tomo Sasuke was also able to react to one-tail attacks as well. Then Sasuke transforms, so he has a CM2 amp, which is 10 times more, right? And on top of it, with the alleged Chidori amp, 3 Tomo precog, okay, with the CM2 curse mark, which is basically nature energy or sage mode, enhancing his precog even further, yet he still can't land a blow on Naruto and beat him, and he's forced to land a Chidori against his Rasengan. And what happens after that? They both go to land one more blow. Naruto scratches his headband. He hits Naruto in the chest. Naruto gets knocked out. Sasuke wins because Naruto was an idiot. So, overall, with all the evidence that I'm presenting so far, there is a tremendous amount of consistency that unfortunately Sasuke with the Chidori, or even Kakashi, when they're using it, it is ultimately just not a massive speed amp or not an amp at all. And if you guys still don't believe me at this point, or are still not persuaded or convinced, okay, I could even show things in Shippuden. So we then Itachi, and we see another example to where basically he misses. And mind you, this Kakashi even had a taijutsu exchange with a 30% Itachi, and they were basically equal to each other. But when he does a Raikiri, he still can't land an attack on him. So there's that as well. Then we see that Kakashi is basically able to do, he Chidori's Kakuzu from behind. Once again, further consistency of either Kakashi having to use combos to create an opening, mud wall to stop their mobility, or to use stealth and hit him from behind for assassination. Okay, which would further support the notion again that Chidori or Raikiri is not a massive amp, Because if it was, then he could literally just do it and just shit on his opponents, along with precognition, because he also has a 3-tomo Sharingan. But guess what? That's not the case, because after he deals with Kakasu, and he knows that Hit-On is basically, he thinks Hit-On's by himself now, and nothing can get in the way, okay? Basically, Kakashi already scales to Hit-On when they have like their taijutsu blow for blow exchange. Even in a 2v1, he's able to keep up with both of them and the mask puppets. So he goes to do his Raikiri because he knows he's equal to this person. And he would beat Hit-On in the exchange because he has precog and Hit-On doesn't. But the reason why it doesn't work, okay, is because Kakasu does the same to Kakashi, attacks him from behind, gets in front of him. And to be fair, this is actually more impressive from Kakasu because literally he gets in front of Kakashi. So Kakashi could still use the precog, technically, but he's still able to get speed blitzed, and he couldn't even land a Raikiri, okay? Furthermore, showing that it's not a massive amp, because we also eventually further see Kakashi fighting Kakasu. In the anime, we see him going blow for blow in the taijutsu exchanges, you name it. We even see Kakashi even, interacting with Kakasu's final tentacle form as well in order to save Naruto, and he was using the Raikiri to stop Kakasu. So, again, further consistency. Then we see Sasuke against Deidara. He goes at full speed. Deidara says he's fast. He misses the strike. Deidara dodges it. Sasuke tries to attack him again. Deidara reacts again, does a C1 explosion. Deidara says that Tobi's right, he's too quick, which means C2 is my best bet, so on and so forth. So, at the end of the day, that's what you're working with. This is important because, once again, if Chidori is such a massive amp, all Sasuke would have had to do after missing the first strike, use Chidori, and then strike him again, and he should have killed him, right? But guess what? He doesn't do that. He tries to just land another taijutsu attack because he knows it would be redundant. Because, once again, it is not a massive amp. Then, another thing that happens, furthermore showing a line of consistency of everything I was claiming before, he has to use Genjutsu in order to land a Chidori. And he's in CM2, remind you. But he still has to use Genjutsu, which furthermore shows evidence he has to set up the attack or make sure it's a guaranteed hit. Because unfortunately, if the opponent is either over you in scaling or maybe even equal, it's still risky to use the Chidori, So there's that as well. And we see again, he has to use Genjutsu in order to land a punch on Deidara as well. Still aren't convinced. We see Kakashi using the mud wall to try to land a Raikiri. Pain still dodges it. And then we see Kakashi try to do what he did to Kakasu from behind, but Pain is able to dodge it because he was able to see it, due to the link vision. So once again, further showing, it's kind of what you're working with. And then we see Sasuke use it against the Raikage. He was actually successful though while using the precog. It even emphasizes he's using precog. In the anime, it shows it even furthermore, and he's able to land the blow on V1 Raikage due to the 3-tomo Sharingan, not the Chidori. We see it again against Danzo, where they have a full contentious fight, and Danzo was able to go blow for blow with Sasuke as well in taijutsu and whatnot, and so on and so forth. And Sasuke then does a Chidori, yet he still can't land an attack on an extremely fatigued, critically injured Danzo. Then we see their final clash, which is Sasuke using a Chidori sword, while Danzo is using a wind-style sword, and they both hit each other at the same time. Why? Because they both have the Sharingan. To be fair, this is more impressive for Danzo, because Danzo is not even using a Sharingan, he's using a normal eye, while Sasuke is using an MS, yet Danzo could still force an equal hit, which is pretty crazy for Danzo. And then in the end, we even see furthermore, once again, this is like, if you guys just don't believe me at this point, I don't know what to tell you, but even Sasuke without 3-tomo Sharingan or the Sharingan still uses the Chidori, and Naruto lands an equal hit against each other, and they have their Rising on Chidori clash like they normally do in the narrative. Okay, he didn't need, you know what I mean? So like, once again, furthermore just showing, and this Sasuke was equal to this Naruto, or they're, at least because Naruto was holding back, to be fair, but they were equal to each other, whatever. He does a Chidori, they both landed. So, even without the Sharingan, okay, this furthermore goes to show, like, once again, there you go. You know what I mean? Now, if he had the Sharingan, he probably would have landed a blow on Naruto, or Naruto would have just been more faster like he was in the Final Valley and still forced the exchange. But either way, that's what you have with that. And then in the end, we see Six Path Naruto and Six Path Sasuke fighting as well. They're equal, right? Whatever. Naruto's holding back, to be fair. But anyways, then Sasuke does a fireball jutsu to distract Naruto. Then he teleports to Naruto, okay? And then is able to land a Chidori because of it. So once again, furthermore showing that he has to set up attacks in order to land Chidori, so on and so forth. So overall, in conclusion, Chidori Raikiri is not a massive speed amp. It is either not an amp at all, or it is only a small amp. And I know before any of the Kakashi fans or Sasuke fans freak out or whatever, you name it, okay, I will say this in defense for Raikiri and Chidori. If you want to bring up like the arguments for like, you know, Kakashi using Raikiri in order to like match with Six Gate guy and whatnot or whatever, or if you even want to go and use the data book where it says like, you know, Kakashi is like gets magnitudes stronger or whatever, so on or faster when he's using Raikiri or whatever, you can go towards that logic, whatever, blah blah. But the problem, guys, is unfortunately feats contradict the two best statements that you can even argue for Chidori or Raikiri being an amp, which is the original Minato analysis statement and the data book statement, okay? Along while there's a consistency in so many feats, in abundance. I just went over all the information contradicting that narrative and notion, okay? Where it's contradicted by feats, and it's shown consistently that they have to use either distractions, stop the mobility, so on and so forth, or better yet, just be massively over the opponent, yada, yada, yada. And one last thing I can even throw in here as well, think of it this way, guys, in simplicity. If Chidori was such a massive amp or Raikiri, it would be just like the first gate that Lee has. Because think of it this way, Lee, you know, like he has his weightless speed, right, or whatever, you know, whatever you name it, and like, let's say he can't speed blitz someone, right? Then he does the first gate, now he's able to speed blitz. Like every time Lee does the first gate, he's always able to speed blitz. There's only one person he couldn't, and that was Kimmaru, okay? So there you go, right? That's a blatant demonstration that it's clearly a speed amp, right? Gate 1. Chidori doesn't operate like that. He literally needs the Sharingan. You need the speed, the Sharingan, and obviously an enormous amount of chakra and the elemental nature of lightning. So, and then lastly, this is the last thing I can do to really try to convey and persuade you guys, but even in Boruto, in the manga and anime, it is further reinforced with the notion that in order to master the Chidori, you need at least 2 Tomo Sharingan to read your opponent's movements, and then you can be able to utilize the technique, because with the 1 Tomo Sharingan, it doesn't give you enough kinetic visual acuity, your 1 Tomo Sharingan, and so on and so forth, and that's why you'll be able to fail the attack. So meaning Sasuke and Boruto himself is literally conceding. Because think about it this way, if the Chidori was such a massive amp, you wouldn't need the precog because you would just speed blitz and kill your opponent, right? But instead he's saying that it's basically has nothing to do with it being a speed amp, but that you need precognition along in correspondence with your own speed in order for the technique to be executed perfectly and successful. So there's that as well. It's even shown in Boruto, but overall, that's all I can give. As always, guys, make sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think of this overall. Subscribe for more content. Subscribe because of the channel.
やめろ。いいんだ、カカシ。俺はもうダメみたいだ。体の右側はほとんど潰れちまって、感覚すら